A slice of smooth, tender liver gleams on the luxurious banquet table. Foie Gras, a dish condemned as barbaric, yet still revered as the epitome of French cuisine. Why does such a controversial dish still exist amidst a global wave of ethics? What makes this liver not be eliminated, but increasingly become a symbol? Behind it lies a little-known world, and this is when we embark on a journey to discover the mysteries of this luxury industry. Called goose liver, most foie gras in France today actually comes from ducks. Specifically, Mullard ducks, a species that cannot reproduce naturally, bred from domestic Pekin ducks and black Muscovy ducks. This breed of duck doesn't quack loudly, doesn't fly far, doesn't resist, but produces livers that are large, soft, fatty, and not greasy, a product born solely to make foie gras. But the uniqueness lies in the raising method. For the first 10 to 12 weeks, the ducks are not caged, not force-fed. They live like free entities in wide meadows, eating natural corn, basking in the sun, flapping their wings and playing. Why such care, before a process considered cruel in the end? Because only when the duck's physical and mental state is stable will the liver later accumulate fat properly. A stressed duck will produce a liver full of blood spots. Some farms play classical music for the ducks, adjusting the lighting according to the day-night cycle. Sounds absurd? But the liver is indeed softer. The food is also not simple. Yellow corn, rich in starch, is sometimes soaked in light alcohol, or mixed with herbs to reduce the natural fishy smell of the liver. Some farmers even call it a liver-nourishing diet. And then, even the timing of when to start force-feeding is not random. Some farms in the Landis region believe that the waning moon is when the liver absorbs fat best, while the full moon easily causes the liver to crack open. Could it be that this industry is not simply agriculture, but an ancient ritual disguised as modern practice? When ducks are raised like they're on a health retreat, breeds are selected like blending wine, and the day is chosen according to the lunar cycle. Are the French creating a living luxury product, not simply food? This is the part that makes foie gras the focus of global controversy. Gavage, the process of force-feeding ducks with a metal tube. It sounds cruel. A long tube inserted deep into the duck's throat, 2 to 3 times a day, for 2 consecutive weeks. But if this were just pure coercion, why would the liver become smooth and creamy, instead of breaking and hardening? The answer begins with a biological detail that few know. Ducks do not have vocal cords like humans, and they do not have a gag reflex. That means inserting the tube down the throat doesn't cause choking or nausea for the duck, a special biological structure that nature has bestowed upon migratory birds. This is the key point that foie gras producers use to refute accusations of animal torture. And then, the rest is technique, an art of the internal organs precise to the second. Not just anyone can perform gavage. They are called maître gaveurs, force-feeding masters. There are no schools. They learn by observing, by feeling. Some can lightly touch the duck's abdomen, listen to its breathing, touch its skin, and know whether the liver has enough fat or not. How can a touch distinguish that? And how can a profession associated with iron tubes be revered like an artist? Each force feeding is a measured operation. The amount of corn is calculated down to the gram. The injection time is only a few seconds. Too fast and the duck chokes. Too slow, and it doesn't accumulate fat in time. Many farms use specialized software to monitor each duck. But the maître gaveurs don't need technology. They trust their hands and intuition more than algorithms. Even stranger, the liver doesn't enlarge due to coercion, but due to survival instinct. Ducks are migratory birds. Before a long flight, their livers naturally accumulate fat to store energy. Gavage, according to the French interpretation, is simply activating that instinct artificially. It sounds like justification, but in reality, if force-fed incorrectly, the liver won't softly enlarge but will become bloodshot, the vessels will rupture, it will harden, considered completely worthless. Meaning, if you don't respect the duck's body, the farmer themselves will be the loser. Just as grape farmers must listen to the soil, foie gras duck farmers must also listen to the liver, a skill no one can explain, only feel through the thousands of ducks that have passed through their hands. And this is only the middle step. That liver, even if it has enough fat, is not yet called foie gras. To become a symbol, it still has to pass another round of evaluation. Light, hands, smell, and a grading system like wine. When the gavage process ends, the harvest time does not occur arbitrarily. On many traditional farms, the day of slaughtering the ducks is chosen according to the lunar calendar. Is this superstition? Or is it the inherited experience of generations who listen to the liver by hand, where feeling replaces technology? After slaughter, the liver is immediately removed and rapidly chilled to stabilize the fat structure. And then, the evaluation process begins. No machines, no digitalization. The liver is examined under light, touched with bare hands, smelled by human noses rather than machines, to check for softness, color, odor, and elasticity. The livers that meet the highest standards, smooth as butter, without ruptured vessels, ivory pink in color, are classified as foie gras extra. Only about 15% of each batch qualifies for this. Why use human hands instead of machines? Because no technology can replace the feeling of a long-time maître gaveur, who can know in just 3 seconds whether that liver deserves to be on a fine dining table or is only good enough for canned mousse. Some livers are even tagged with QR codes, traceable to their entire life cycle. Duck breed, breeder, type of corn, number of gavages, harvest date. These livers often appear in culinary auctions, fetching up to 200 to 300 euros each. After being evaluated, graded, and chilled, the foie gras begins a journey unlike any other ingredient in the food industry. The liver is not cooked immediately. It is rested, like premium beef needs to be dry-aged, to allow the fat structures to stabilize, the aroma to mellow, and the color to reach its ideal state. But preparing foie gras is not simply cooking. This is a series of manual operations, requiring absolute precision and a delicate sense of touch. So how do you handle a material so fragile that a strong touch breaks it? Overcooking makes it fishy, and incorrect storage completely devalues it. The liver is processed at a temperature no higher than 70 degrees Celsius. Just a few degrees higher, the fat will separate. The liver will lose its smoothness and become fishy. Too low and the liver is undercooked, slimy, and difficult to preserve. When cutting the liver, the knife must be heated, not a cold knife. A cold cut can break the tiny fat globules, causing the liver to tear on the surface, failing presentation requirements. Here, heat is not for cooking, but to glide through the liver, leaving no trace. What does that show? That the liver is not cooked like an ingredient, but treated like a living material, requiring techniques closer to surgery than cooking. That is when foie gras reveals a profound paradox. It is cruel at the input, but treated with absolute reverence at the output. No other ingredient in cuisine is handled like this. A piece of beef can be charred, shredded, fried crispy. But with foie gras, any rough handling can be an offense. And this reflects the nature of the dish. It exists not because of need, but because of positioning. Foie gras is a declaration of the elite, that they can choose beauty, sophistication, even if it comes at the cost of the majority's disapproval. And it is in the processing, from raw liver to mousse, torchon, block, or served fresh, that the relationship between cuisine, power, and trade-offs is redefined. Each type of product serves a different class of customer, but the highest is still fresh liver eaten cold with Sauterne wine, a touch between fatty and sweet, cold and rich, space and depth. So what distinguishes the different grades between them? It's not the price, but the level of closeness to the original. The more mixing involved, the further the liver moves away from the pure definition of foie gras. Is that a coincidence, or does it reflect an underlying logic in the world of high-end cuisine? that the most luxurious thing is not the most complex, but the perfectly preserved original. That is also why the extra livers, the ones that meet the highest standards, are not canned. They are hand-wrapped, distributed separately, delivered directly to chefs like a sacred object. Foie gras is not eaten because of hunger. No one buys it to fill their stomach. It is placed in the middle of the banquet table as a silent symbol of status, something that says who you are, not just what you eat. When a dish has to be preserved like wine, cut like silk, served like a ritual, it is no longer just food. It is an object carrying identity, culture, and the conflicts of the times. And foie gras, in that processing, has transformed from a liver into a distinctly French culinary declaration, elaborate, contradictory, refined, and unyielding. Foie gras is not on the shelf with sausages or cold cuts. So where is it? It goes straight to places with the power to interpret what expensive is worth it. Michelin-starred restaurants, limited wine parties, culinary auctions, high-end food boutiques. The liver needs no advertising. Each slice of liver is its own introduction. Smooth, silky, not fishy, melting quickly but leaving a lingering taste. Perhaps no other dish divides the world so fiercely between the craving for pleasure and the pangs of conscience. Foie gras is a complete symbol of beauty that comes at a price, of refinement molded from paradox, cruel in method but absolute in presentation, banned in many places but a source of national pride. And what's more, it still survives. Not just existing, but being protected, honored, enshrined in law, associated with festivals, and passed down as a tangible heritage with substance, a story, and even memories. What do you think about this industry? Leave your opinion so we can discuss it together. Goodbye and see you in the next videos.